Well, it's been a huge couple of weeks for Reform UK. We are in the news all the time. In some opinion polls, we're now above Labour, in others, above the Conservatives. What's for certain is we now have three parties polling somewhere in the 20s, and we're the ones on the up. Now look, you'll have read about Elon Musk, and is he going to give us a load of money? And then yesterday, Nick Candy, the big property developer, known by some as Holly Valence's husband, a bit unfair, but it's true. Nick joined us yesterday as our treasurer, and we're going to raise money. Some people say, well, you know what? If the big money guys are coming in, I don't need to do anything. Let me tell you this. If we are going to build a people's army that beat the establishment, that give us in a few years' time the kind of government we need to turn round the decline.
I don't miss this moment, because what we're about to discuss could change the political picture of the UK forever. There is real chaos in Westminster this morning, and it's not just words. Nigel Farage, leader of the UK Reform Party and one of the most controversial figures in British politics, has unleashed a barrage of criticism against Prime Minister Keir Starmer. His accusations are not just heard, they cause heated discussions that can rethink the very essence of our democracy. Farage claims that this government is betraying our democratic values. The Labour Party shocked everyone by announcing that the local election scheduled for May 2025 would be postponed. But this is not just an ordinary delay, we are talking about a possible postponement until 2026 or even 2027. This could be a real blow to the democratic foundations of the country.
We're talking about a possible postponement until 2026 or even 2027. Before we unravel the implications of this political bombshell, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. Here, we break down the latest news, provide sharp analysis, and dig deep into stories that matter.
Well, it's been a huge couple of weeks for Reform UK. We are in the news all the time. In some opinion polls, we're now above Labour, in others, above the Conservatives. What's for certain is we now have three parties polling somewhere in the 20s, and we're the ones on the up. Now look, you'll have read about Elon Musk, and is he going to give us a load of money?
Postponing elections in a democracy is a big deal. These are the moments when the public gets to speak, to hold their leaders accountable. But what happens when those moments are delayed? Labour says it's a necessary step to fix local council structures. Nigel Farage says it's nothing.
The postponement of elections in a democratic society is not just an event, it is a real storm. These are the critical moments when citizens can loudly declare their desires and demand responsibility from their leaders. But what happens when such important moments are postponed? The Labour Party claims that this is a necessary step to reform local councils, but does it sound plausible? Nigel Farage, in turn, calls this nothing more than a seizure of power. And what does the public think? They can only wonder who they can trust in this confusing game. Nigel Farage is known for his eloquence and ability to mutate disappointed voters, but even by his standards, his reaction to this statement was explosive. In a statement that has already gone viral, he accused the Labour Party of behaving like a third-world dictatorship. This is not just a postponement of the elections, it is a desperate attempt to stay in power at any cost. The Labour Party is well aware that they are losing the trust of the British people, and instead of accepting this, they are changing the rules of the game as if it were their personal property. Farage did not stop there. He compared the actions of the Labour Party to the tactics used by authoritarian regimes around the world. In his opinion, the government uses democracy as a facade, while behind closed doors it undermines its foundations, destroying what should be sacred to every citizen.
Now listen, the political landscape in Britain is undergoing a seismic, perhaps historic shift, with Nigel Farage and Reform UK emerging as a formidable political force that's now reshaping the traditional two-party system. Recent polling data, some bombshell polls that I'll share with you in a second, and high-profile developments within Reform suggest that we are now witnessing a pivotal, transformative moment in British politics. Now, Reform UK's rise in recent polls is nothing short of remarkable. According to the very latest poll by Find Out Now, a very reliable, rigorous pollster, Reform is now polling at 25% with support from 1 in 4 voters, placing them in a tight race with Labour, who are first on 26%, and ahead of the Tories, with Kemi Babe not failing to impress so far on just 23% of the vote.
Farage then furiously attacked Keir Starmer, accusing him of borrowing political strategies from the US Democrats. He claims that the Labour Party is manipulating the system, passing off its actions as reforms. His tone was aggressive and his accusations outspoken. And this resonates strongly with many voters who feel increasingly excluded from mainstream politics. Farage is not just expressing anger, he is rallying his support, presenting this moment as crucial for Britain. But his passionate rhetoric raises an important question. Is he right? And what is the position of the Labour Party in this turbulent situation? Local Government Minister Jim McMahon explained the decision. He stated that the delay in the elections was due to a major restructuring of local councils. Significant administrative changes are taking place in regions such as Essex, Kent and Sussex, with some councils merging, others being abolished, and borders being redefined.
Now this represents a significant surge from the 14% share that Reform polled at the 2024 general election only 5 months ago. What does it mean? Well, if those numbers were replicated at a general election, Reform would go from only 5 seats in the House of Commons today to closer to around 100 seats in Parliament. So this could be a complete game changer. Now, Nigel Farage, the charismatic leader of Reform UK, has emphasised the party's momentum in a recent letter to Reform supporters. He has said, "We're making headlines daily, and in some polls we're now ahead of Labour. In others, we're ahead of the Conservatives. What's clear is that 3 parties are polling in the 20s, and we're the one on the rise." And Farage is not wrong. What we are seeing, what we are witnessing at the moment, is a traditional 2-party system morphing into a multi-party system with Labour, the Conservatives and Reform now.
The Labour Party argues that holding elections in an environment where changes have not yet been finalised will lead to chaos and confusion. McMahon insists that these reforms are vital for modernising local government. In a recent interview, he proudly stated that we strive to make councils more effective and better equipped to serve their communities. But at first glance, this explanation may seem reasonable, and immediately critics raise alarm flags. Essex, Kent and Sussex are key regions for Labour, where there has been an explosive increase in support for other opposition parties. For Farage and his supporters, this does not look like reform, but like a clever strategic manoeuvre that allows the Labour Party to gain additional time to regroup in areas where they may lose their positions. At the same time, voters in these regions remain without the right to vote, left to fend for themselves. Farage furiously rejected the excuses of the Labour Party, calling them meaningless, and this only underlines the intensity of passions in this struggle for the future of the country.
That Reform UK's support has increased sharply over the last few months, rising from under 20% to 25% of the vote here in December 2024. And look into the detail too. Reform is now leading the Conservatives among everybody under the age of 65. They're more popular than the Conservatives among men, and they are taking about 1 in 5 people who voted for the Conservatives back at the general election in July. So it is clear that Nigel Farage's party, only 5 months on from that general election, is already morphing into a mainstream, serious political force. The current political landscape in Britain has evolved into a 3-way contest, with Labour, the Tories and Reform now all polling relatively similar shares of the vote. This marks a significant departure from the traditional 2-party system that has dominated British politics for decades. Farage's appeal for membership, which is priced at £25 a year, which he compares to the cost of a packet of cigarettes or a round of...
Opposition leaders from all ends of the political spectrum are raising the alarm, warning that this delay sets a dangerous precedent that could turn into a disaster. At the center of this contradiction lies a more serious problem: trust. Elections are the foundation of democracy, sacred moments when citizens can hold their leaders accountable. Postponing elections, even for technical reasons, can undermine public confidence in the system, and these are not just words. Public opinion polls already show that trust in the government has reached an all-time low. Years of political conflicts, scandals and economic difficulties have led to the fact that voters are deeply disappointed and dissatisfied. Recent disagreements may further deepen this split, and this is truly alarming. Critics claim that postponing the elections is a dangerous signal. This tells the voters that their vote can be postponed and their choice ignored. In a democracy, this is an extremely risky step that can have unpredictable consequences. The Labour Party, however, insists that it is about responsible governance. They argue that hastily holding elections without completing council reform will create more problems than it will solve. For them, this is a matter of stability and efficiency, not politics. But the timing of such statements is extremely unfortunate. The Labour Party is facing a crisis of trust. They are accused of authoritarianism, and public trust is at an all-time low. What do you think about this video? Share your thoughts in the comments. See you later.